Hi, welcome to Awesome Opening and Closing Routines for In-Person and Distance Learning. I'm Leslie Zaroya, Coordinator of Reading Language Arts at Los Angeles County Office of Education. Thanks so much for joining me for this short module. Instructional routines can be a great tool for providing a welcoming tone to the class. Students know what to expect and feel safe in the predictability and structure of routines. I love that routines can serve many academic purposes. They allow students to make specific connections to both content and process. Students can show what they know in terms of the content of the lesson, as well as consider the metacognitive aspects of learning, how they learned. These practices help students develop their sense of agency as a learner and gain confidence in knowing that they can complete tasks. Practically speaking, routines also provide some accountability at both the beginning and end of class. I'm expected to get right down to business in the opener and then show what I know and how I learned in the closing routine. So let's jump in. Our first opening routine is the mood meter. Dr. Mark Brackett from Yale University Center for Emotional Intelligence shared this strategy in a recent webinar. See our website if you want to watch it. It's amazing. And the mood meter is super effective. It's a tool for emotional check-in. Students identify 1 to 3 words describing how they feel in that moment. It allows the teacher to get a sense of how students are doing and who they may need to follow up on, especially if a particular student has consistently low or angry emotions. I love that this routine is quick and easy. In person, students can write their word or words on a Post-it and put it on their desk for you to peruse the room. You can also use small whiteboards or just a piece of paper. You can take it further by grouping students with similar or differing emotional states and have them talk about why they are feeling happy or sad or angry or frustrated or overwhelmed, or maybe ecstatic, along with strategies for regulating those emotions. The mood meter is easy to do online as well. Students place their words in the chat and you can do breakouts to discuss. If breakouts are not allowed, you can always select a group of similar words and talk whole group about how to regulate that feeling. If a lot of students are overwhelmed, for example, talk together about what students can do to feel less overwhelmed and offer strategies together. Attending to the emotional well-being of our students is so critical. They can't learn if they're dealing with major emotions. And having this quick emotional check-in may be just the thing they need to not only get it out there, but to also learn a way to regulate their emotions so they can go on with the classwork at hand. Next are emojis. I know, this seems simple and maybe even dumb, but for students who have a hard time recognizing or just naming their emotions, an emoji can do that for them. Use the same procedure as the mood meter and have students identify their emoji and maybe even try to explain what might be causing that emotion. This works well for younger students, but I would also have them find a word that they associate with the emoji so their emotional vocabulary can grow. So simple, yes, but this strategy can go a long way to help students name and regulate emotions. Picture this Thursday. I love pictures. They're powerful tools for a variety of purposes. In terms of routines, I like Picture This Thursday because it immediately draws kids in. Simply show an intriguing photo, and it must be intriguing. A boring photo will not offer enough to decipher. And pose questions for students to consider. Either alone or preferably in groups, students answer the questions based on close viewing, inferencing, and analyzing skills. They can write responses on a Google Doc for online learning, or on a whiteboard, poster, or any other document in person. Then groups share their impressions and ideas and justify their opinions with evidence from the photo. They love this. They are judgers by nature, and they love to look at photos and try to glean the message or story behind it. So let's look at an example. This photo is interesting for sure. I immediately want to know, why is the teapot on her head? Why are there cups but no other people? Why is she in an unfurnished castle-like room, barefoot? And why is she wearing a fancy dress? How would the image be different if her feet were really dirty? What if the room was furnished? Students can describe what they see and make inferences. Is she happy? What effect does the sunlight have on the photo? What if she was considerably older? How would it change your impression of her? You can eventually have students create their own photos to share, which takes this routine to a whole new level. There are many skills going on in this 5 to 10 minute activity: listening, speaking, writing, inferencing, analyzing, justifying. It's a great opener to get kids excited and as a springboard into the lesson, especially if the photo relates to the content of the day. 3 good things. This routine is a good weekly routine for students to practice gratitude, reinforce their sense of well-being, and focus on positive things that happen that week. They simply write 3 things in their lives or in the world that felt like bright spots and share with a partner. It's really easy to have our attention drawn to negative things, and this simple act of finding 3 good things about the week can go a long way towards student agency, well-being, and confidence. Next is notable quotables. This routine involves showing students a famous and thought-provoking quote and having them write a response. I love it because it exposes students to a wide range of authors, politicians, thought leaders, and just notable people with something interesting to say. Students can practice the language of agree, disagree, as well as other transitional phrases. It's all about the kinds of responses you ask for. So let's consider an example. This quote is from the late John Lewis, and he says, "You are a light. You are the light. Never let anyone or any person or any force dampen, dim, or diminish your light. Release the need to hate, to harbor division in the enticement of revenge. Release all bitterness. Hold only love, only peace in your heart, knowing that the battle of good to overcome evil is already won." So you may ask students if they agree or disagree with the statement and provide rationale for their response. You can have them make connections to their own lives by asking, in what ways do you attempt to do these things? How is it manifested in your life? It's also fun to have students consider the quote in terms of society. Is society a reflection of this ideal? How do you know? What examples are you seeing? The sky is really the limit. Students can then pair up to discuss and ultimately give feedback on whether their partner justified their responses adequately. This routine is fun and can offer students new perspectives on issues in the world and have them think critically about them. Next is Rose, Thorn, and Bud. This routine allows students to develop self-awareness and metacognitive practices, as well as encourage responsible decision-making. Students identify a success, the rose, a challenge, the thorn, and then a bud, an opportunity that they could take in their lives. These can be personal or totally related to the content in the classroom. The goal is just to have them be thinking about these areas and develop ways to celebrate successes and manage challenges and opportunities. It also helps you as the teacher to know where they are struggling. This can be a quick 3-minute activity and easily done both in person or online on a Google Doc. First chapter Fridays for the ELA classroom is a treat. Basically, you read the first chapter of a compelling book aloud to students. Before you begin, you give students a listening prompt, a question or an idea to listen for. Students listen to the chapter and get into groups to discuss the ideas given around the prompt. This routine is great for speaking and listening skills and exposing students to new authors and topics. Someone can then volunteer to read the whole book and report back to the class. I've seen this work wonders for building excitement around books and creating a wait list of recommended readings. Now let's look at some closing routines. These are focused again both on content, in summarizing and drawing conclusions, as well as process, reflecting on how they learned and being able to ask for help. Compass points is a great routine for building deeper student metacognitive practices and a sense of agency. The compass represents NSEW, not north, south, east, west, but needs, suggestions, excitement, and worries. Students write one of each after a lesson to synthesize ideas, provide feedback, and ask for help if they need it. These types of practices are so important because without prompting, students would likely not do them. Being able to reflect on your learning in terms of needs, suggestions, excitement, and worries is a high-level emotional intelligence skill and leads to independent learners. It also provides the teacher with some great information about both the lesson and the learner. Next is the 3 A's: appreciation, apology, and aha. This closing activity is for community building. Students reflect on an activity or experience and share either an appreciation of someone or something, an apology if they need to give it, or an aha, something that really struck them as interesting or meaningful. You can do this as a quick whip around and have everyone share one thing. The practice of apology and appreciation is especially powerful in a classroom community, and we don't always take time to do this. Everyone wants to feel appreciated, right? I mean, it's amazing. And it's nice to get an apology when deserved. This routine can change the culture of a classroom and really bond the group together. Daily Dozen. I love the Daily Dozen. Each day, students get to choose 2 out of the 12 sentence starters to complete around their learning. You can change them up weekly, but the starters are things like, one thing I don't understand is, or I need more examples of, or it was fun today to, etc. You get the idea. The point is that once again, it is allowing students agency over their learning. They choose what they want to share or ask for. I think back to my high school years, and I really struggled in geometry. It would have been a game changer if I had been able to do this kind of activity. I would have been able to better communicate where I was struggling. That's why these kinds of activities are so important. We really need to provide opportunities for students to be able to communicate and to even think about how they're learning and what kind of supports that they need. Next is Fast 5. This is a way to quickly recap concepts and ideas from a lesson. Students write 5 words or phrases that encapsulate the lesson or activity. Then they pair up and share ideas, justifying their word choices. They can practice agreeing and disagreeing and providing evidence. It's fun and is a good way to talk about and reinforce key concepts. Finally, doodle it. Drawing is a powerful tool for some students. Pictures can be a great way to solidify concepts. You have to use critical thinking to transfer an idea to a metaphorical concept. So for this, students reflect on a lesson or activity and draw 3 doodles that represent key ideas. Then they write an explanation of each and share in a small group or pair setting. For some students, not all, this will be their way to shine and help others understand concepts. Others may or may not like to draw, but seeing how peers tackle this is a learning event in and of itself. Let's face it, our brains like images, and it can be a way to etch ideas in our minds. I hope you found these to be useful. There's a handout attached to this module with all of the strategies and how to do them, so check that out as well. Thanks so much for listening, and as always, let us know if we can support you in any way.